AJ, what I'm having a problem with is in my work job, can I access these emotions after judging when you've got all these people around? I just block them and just block them. I just can't feel them. I'd end up crying, I'd end up being a mess. So I don't know what to do.
Right, now my suggestion is allow yourself to cry and be a mess. Now that is not what is classified by the world to be a very professional thing to do. Agreed? Okay, so that's a judgment of the world that you're accepting. Can you see that? The truth is that anything that comes to me, including if I'm a practitioner, anything that comes to me is a law of attraction event to help me access my own causal emotion. So if I'm having an emotional response to a story that's being told to me, there is something inside of me that is connecting here that I need to work my way through. And the best time and place to do it is then and there. Now the problem that we face in today's world is that we're going to be terribly judged as a practitioner if we do that. But we could say to our clients, I'm going to do this from now on. This is how I do my practice. And if you can't cope with me being emotional, how are you ever going to help me help you be emotional? If you can't handle me being emotional, I can't help you being emotional. I can't help you to get to your causal emotions either. I feel in the future what is going to happen is these kind of practices will change, and instead of under the guise of professionality, being a professional, we suppress emotion. Instead of that happening, what's going to happen is being professional is being in your emotions at all times. And once we get to that state, all the nurses in the hospital are going to be able to do that. All the doctors in the hospital will be able to do that. Every single psychologist and psychiatrist and everybody else will be able to do that as well. And in the end, it will teach the entire planet that we're able to feel our emotions and that our emotions are the major cause of all of our distress and illness. So in this interim phase, you have a decision to make, really. And it's a decision based around truth. If you feel the truth that emotions are the cause of all disease, illness and suffering, then it's time to put that truth into action in your life, even if you're in a professional situation. And see where the chips fall and allow it to change. Because at the moment what happens is if we all just conform to the way the world has already created this system to be, what's going to happen is it's going to stay the way it is. It needs people who are going to change it by leading their way through it. It needs leaders. People who will be examples in changing this whole system. So I understand the dilemma, but the feeling I have is allow yourself to feel your emotions. Stop blocking the emotions. These are all law of attraction events bringing beautiful people to you to help you access some of your own emotion, as well as helping them heal their emotion. And in fact, I feel that the more empathy that you have with them and the more you allow your emotions to flow because of what they're telling you, the more they will connect with their causal emotion and release it. Does that make sense?
Sorry, it does, but should I, at home, feel the fear of feeling the emotion that I'm going to have? Because I have hundreds of people that I'm in front of every day when I'm at work, not just a few. So it's a huge amount of people. So that's the problem. I would have a lot of fear in the first place before even leaving home.
Yes, so you certainly do need to feel that fear. The problem that we face in the beginning of any venture that we make is that right at the start, we're basically opening ourselves up to hundreds of people projecting emotion at us, right? And that, of course, is going to have some fairly large emotional impacts on me, emotionally. What I need to do then is create a space for myself where I'm able to feel that impact and able to feel that coming at me. Many people who are in the professions of assisting others have learnt to detune from their emotion in order to cope with the profession. The problem that we have with that is that we also then basically are telling our clients that they need to detune from their emotion in order to cope with their situation, by our example. But in addition, we're also telling every single person that we live with that we can't cope with the projection of emotion coming to us except by selection. And that is not the way to live our life, and it's certainly not the way God created you to live your life. In the end, you will be able to cope with thousands of people projecting emotion at you, and every single one of those emotions have no effect on you. But that will only happen when you start allowing 1 or 2 or 3 people to project emotion at you and allowing yourself to feel it. And then as you feel it, you release the causal emotion, and after a while there's nothing to resonate inside of yourself with that. So instead of you having to block it, the cross thing and keep it away from me, instead of you having to block it, what will happen is you'll absorb it, it'll just pass through you, but there'll be no response inside of you because there's nothing that it triggers inside of you. Does that make sense? So, but it takes courage, certainly, and there'll be fear about being overwhelmed, and fear about being, manipulated and controlled even by other people's emotion. Lots of different fears will come up as a result. Yeah, and you need to give yourself the space to deal with it. For many people in professional areas that are caring for others, we don't have the space to deal with it, and that's one of the major problems, right? And so that's why there's high degrees of breakdowns in the caring professions and so forth, because none of them have the space to actually deal with their own emotional response to what's happening around them. And what needs to happen is that needs to change. But it needs people like yourself who are willing to lead that change for it to change. It's not going to change by all the doctors and all the nurses and everybody getting together and saying, oh, we've all realised that we're doing this. Because, to be frank, the majority of them don't realise they're doing this, and they feel like this is the only way to cope. It needs people who are willing to talk about it, talk about how to deal with it, and you'll find there's hundreds of thousands of people on this planet, hundreds of thousands of people in the caring professions who just want to do this. They want to be more open emotionally and everything. They just can't do it in the current environment.